Hi everybody, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel, Hallmark Plus More, where we watch and talk about shows, movies, mysteries, Hallmark ornaments, and anything else that floats our boat. So today we're going to be reviewing High Potential Season 1, Episode 10, starring Caitlin Olsen. And before I get into the review, I just want to say thank you to everybody who likes, watches, subscribes to my channel. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So this particular episode is close to my heart because it's about small children. So it's actually about a nanny. So the first scene is them on a playground and the kids are trying to go down the slide and it's like they're stopped. There's something in the slide and they're not coming all the way down. The parent goes up and finds that there's a dead body in the slide. And it looks like there's blood from the head, like maybe she got hit in the head and they hit her in the slide or whatever. So my first thought is, going to a playground with your kids, grandkids, nieces and nephews, neighbors, friends, and there's a dead body in a playground slide. So at first I'm like, okay, that doesn't set the right tone for me. I mean, that's scary. These children are seeing, like, they're trying to go down a slide and you hear them screaming and it's because there's a body there. So this involves, she was a nanny. So this is kind of going behind the scenes or speaking with other nannies who watch small children. Morgan does Morgan. It was a great episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And then they talk to some of the other nannies, and right away, they talk about a guy that was hanging around. So, that's kind of as old as, ever. No matter how old you are when you have kids, you always hear about, if you see some guy sneaking around the playground or around the elementary school. So, at first you obviously want to know who is this guy sneaking around. And then they find out some other information. He has a limp, you see him with the French newspaper. So they do find out who the so-called guy hanging around the playground was, and he was a PI. So you go and you speak to the parents that hired the nanny, because the nanny is dead. So obviously they're going to go to the parents because she was found at a playground, want to find out. They didn't really say anything about the guy. They never noticed him at the playground, obviously, because the nanny was at the playground when they saw him. But they never mentioned anything, and then you find out later he was a PI hired from the parents of the child that she nannied. So obviously they're going to go back and talk to them. They seem very nice. You can tell there's a little bit of relationship conflict between them, but honestly, I mean, that happens when you have kids or you're around kids. Everybody parents a little different. You can have the same views on certain things, but you're still going to differ on some things. So I didn't think that was odd at all. I thought it was very realistic and normal to kind of see, like, you could kind of see that they disagreed on a couple things, but they loved their child. And in my opinion, that's all that matters. They loved this child. And it turns out they hadn't had this nanny for very long. Their previous nanny, Rosa, they fired her. So Tara, the victim in this case, had only been there for a few months. So Morgan being Morgan, she picked up that the other nannies really liked Rosa. So what happened with Rosa was there is this parenting Facebook group, and when I heard them say parent Facebook group, I kind of cringed, right? Because everybody knows, we're all parents, grandparents, like I said, nieces and nephews, godparents, step parents. Everybody has children or been around children most of the time, and everybody has different opinions on raising. And you always have that mom shaming, you know what I mean? When I first had children, I got on a Facebook group, looked into different stuff, and it's just like, it happens. No matter how good the group is, at some point somebody's going to say, well, I wouldn't do that, or can you believe they gave their kid this, or and before you know it, you're just snowballing into comparing to other parents. So I wasn't in it for very long before I was like, I'm doing me, right? I'm happy, I'm doing me, my parent, my child is happy, happy, you know. But every parent has to decide that. I'm sure there's some good Facebook parenting groups. I've just, never really seen any that don't have a handful of members that kind of, mom shame people. You see it with celebrities. It's terrible. But when I heard that, I was like, oh no, this is terrible. What's going on? So what happened was one of the other parents was with their child in the library, and a child, I guess the nanny wasn't watching them, and they actually got into the street, and a library aide or an employee from the library actually grabbed the child before she went into the parking lot or into traffic. And the parents, seeing that, put it on the Facebook page and said it was Rosa. So the parents fired Rosa. Obviously, they were, like, I can't believe this happened. And that's why they have Tara. So I feel like the parents are a little weary now, and they had some posts on the Facebook about Tara now. So really, you find out later on the nannies were bashing the other nannies because they didn't really like Tara. Tara didn't really, fit into their mold of the other nannies. She did talk to Mark, which is one of the parents, of the little boys. So the nannies are like, well, maybe she's having an affair with Mark. He's married, but he comes to the park with their child, and Tara talks to him. And it turns out Tara isn't close with the nannies. The nannies obviously made it sound like they were all friends because they didn't want it to look suspicious. But it turns out she didn't, really mesh with them. And they really liked Rosa. So what they basically did was they bashed her on this Facebook page, and made it look like the parent. Remember, I told you one parent, and they talked to her. She was kind of snobby. She's like, look, I never have a day off. I had a day off. I took my kid to the library. I saw something wrong. I reported it. I don't regret it. Rosa should have been looking out for that child. So, I understand where she's coming from, but she's like, I didn't write all these things about Tara. And they found out they were all around the same time, and that's how they found out it was a bogus account. But the nannies were trying to pin it on her since she wrote an article or a message about the previous one. So, and then you find out from the parents, they had nanny cams in the house. One of the parents was just really, I guess, paranoid after the whole Rosa incident with the library. So he wasn't as trusting for Tara. And then the other spouse was like, hey, I didn't know you had nanny cams in the house. I trust her. Our son loves her. And that's very difficult when you have a child and you're, putting them in childcare or a nanny, or, I'm not blessed to have enough money to have a nanny. I had to go to childcare and daycare, but it was very difficult for me, because you're basically leaving your son in somebody else's care, and they're basically a stranger, and you're supposed to trust that they're going to be with their child 8 hours a day, 4 hours a day if you did part-time, or a couple of days a week, whatever it was, that they were going to take care of your child. With cameras off, so to speak. Most of them had cameras, but you know what I mean? And you're trusting them. So it's very difficult. I understand why he put nanny cams up in his house. Because it's difficult, especially when you trusted Rosa and you found out that incident. So I kind of understand where they're going through. But it turns out, one of the nannies, was bashing her because apparently she was doing it for less pay or not benefits, and the other nannies were like, hey, that's making us look bad, we have to have this front, we all request a raise, or we request that we need to get these benefits. So I think that's why they weren't friendly with Tara. But Tara found out about it. Tara found out who it was, and she had a lawyer's phone number in her room, and it was an immigration lawyer, and she was going to try to threaten one of the nannies, like, hey, I know you're bashing me, stop it, and the other nanny, she was from Russia, she just basically was like, no, I'm not going back to Russia, and hit her over the head. And it turns out Tara actually went in the slide herself because she was hiding from her. So she's fearing for her life. She's got hit in the head, and she's hiding in a playground slide, and she goes unconscious and dies. So that's kind of scary for her, right? And then all the nannies, come up with this lie that they were all together. And then Adam, I did great. He was like, well, that's great. They have a nanny cam, so we'll just pull up the nanny cam and I'm sure we'll see you all there, right? And the nanny's like froze, like, oh my gosh, no, no, that was a lie. We're afraid of her. She did it, she told us to lie. And Adam, the parents didn't have a nanny cam, but it worked. They confessed that they lied. And at first, she didn't, she was like, I didn't do it. And then once Adam was like, well, they told on you. They told us that, they lied to protect you. And then she just matter of factly was like, yeah, I did it. And, wasn't really regretting it. She just said, yeah, I'd rather go to an American jail or be deported back to Russia. So Adam was like, well, you get your risk because you're going to an American jail. Like, you killed her in cold blood basically, and you're not remorseful. You were just like, I'd rather stay in your jail than go back to Russia. So I mean, I can't imagine what the Russian prisons or what kind of condition she would have been back there, but still I was kind of thrown off by having no remorse. Because Tara wasn't going to, she just wanted it to stop. She wanted to keep her job, basically, once she found out that they were lying about her. And I think she just, and the other nannies admitted, like, yeah, she's kind of mean. She's kind of bossy. We got to do what she says. So I feel like she's kind of like the leader of that nanny group. So maybe they'll be nicer to future nannies now that she's going to be in jail. Who knows? But, that was just hard to watch, having a child and seeing what the parents are going through. And the last scene, which I don't want to say the last scene, but towards the end of the show, they gave one of the parents, Morgan, gave the dad a picture of their son playing with Tara, and Tara was the nanny that passed. Because one of the parents was like, look, our son loved Tara, and they're like, well, yeah, but I still had the nanny cams because, I mean, and you can't be too protective of your child. I guess people say you can, but I mean, he was just wanting to go above and beyond after what happened with Rosa, because they trusted Rosa, and then with the story that happened, they had to let her go. But it turns out Tara truly loved their son, and the husband was like, I could tell that my son truly enjoyed being with Tara, and Tara truly loved him. And Morgan gave the dad a picture from the PI, and he goes, yeah, this isn't something I get to see a lot because when Tara's with my son, I'm obviously at work, so I don't get to see him interact that much with Tara. And the picture was so sweet. I mean, you could just really tell that they cared for each other. And that's one of the hardest things parents have to do. I'm a parent. I don't like being away from my child, but you have to, right? We have to make money. We have to make a living. Unless we win the lottery, which obviously I hope everybody does, right? But, it was difficult for me too. I put my child in daycare when he was younger, and it was hard. The daycare I went to for years begged me to write a review. I don't know why. I guess they wanted some positive feedback. My review basically talked about the teachers, because in my opinion, the teacher is what matters. I wasn't the director, not that they were bad, but I wasn't too fond of the director or the management. The teachers really cared. That infant teacher that I put my child with at 6 months old or 9 months old, whenever I had him in there, she, that is who I trusted. She was with my baby. She was the one listening to my instructions on when to give him a bottle, and and so you really are entrusting your child in their care. So my review was about the teachers. You don't necessarily agree with everything that they do, but you have to know that the person you're giving your child to, and it's really on instinct and gut. And that's why I praise that infant teacher. The reason my son went for longer than infant years was because of the teachers. And my family is full of teachers. Here, that's a side story about me. So, I grew up learning and knowing that teachers make a difference. And having my own child and having childcare, they do make a difference because, they get attached to those people. So it's just sad in this case because their son had really had a liking to Tara. And now this young child or young little boy is now going to go on to a third nanny, you know what I mean? And that's a lot for them. So you can tell that they kind of had that struggle with putting their son, with a yet another nanny. So, that's something we as parents, we always try to find that balance of, spending time with your family, but also making money, right? So, the other part of this that was a little heartbreaking was you see Morgan's son, right? He tells his mom he's going to buy a birthday present for a kid in his class. Everybody was invited to this kid's birthday party but Elliot. And Morgan was like, well, that must be a mistake. We'll order him a Lego set. Every kid at that age likes Lego sets. And then they threw in a little Amazon Prime, a little showing the box show up. And I'm like, okay, well, there's a little indication with Amazon Prime, but they've done that before. So that was funny. And it turns out, Morgan said that must be a mistake. Let's invite him over for a play date. They invite this kid over for a play date with Elliot, and he sits on his handheld device, the phone, video game. And Elliot tries to talk to him and he snaps at him like, oh, you made me lose the game. This is why I didn't invite you to my birthday party. You're no fun. Nobody likes you. And Morgan is obviously seeing this kid go off on her kid. And I mean, what do? Morgan being Morgan, she tells him off and says, okay, you can go right outside on the front porch for your mom. But there's certain things that happen to your child that you can't force people to like your child. So when Morgan, told off the little boy and had him leave her house, Elliot's still not invited to the birthday party, right? I mean, and he's struggling with that. And Morgan has to have that heart to heart, like, hey, you are a cool kid. You're a smart kid, you're going to get through this, but it's still difficult to know, you weren't invited to the birthday party and then the kid goes off on you on like, this is why. So, that was hard for Morgan, and it was hard to kind of watch him and Elliot kind of have that heart to heart conversation. And again, speaking of childcare and nannies with children, you feel that, right? You feel that you always want to make sure that other kids like your kid is liked and has friends and is popular and has hobbies and interests. You never want anybody to mistreat your child, but at the same time you gotta let your kid go to school and deal with school life. I mean, life isn't fair, life isn't good, life can be really hard. And kids are going to learn that, it's full of lessons and you have to let them navigate through that. So, I mean, Elliot obviously, was still upset, and there's not much as a mom that you can say in that situation. So, she's just like, I'm here for you. But that was kind of a very realistic conversation to have, because Morgan is smart. She has 160 IQ. She can solve cases, she can do math equations, but there's certain things in life lessons you can't fix this. No matter how smart, no matter how good you are at things, there's situations with your children that you can't do anything but I'm here for you if you need me, kind of thing. So that was very realistic and yet kind of hard to watch, because what do? And then Ava, her daughter, has a boyfriend, so she's always on her phone texting. And, they go to the park. How I told you there was that scene where Morgan gives the picture of Tara and, and the little boy that she was nannying to the parents, or to the one dad, and kind of had that, like, here's a picture of Tara with him. You can tell that they really were fond of each other. And Ava and Elliot were there. And Elliot used to play with Ava, but Ava's now on her phone talking to her boyfriend, and she sees, her brother sitting on the bench kind of sad, and, she puts her phone away after talking with her boyfriend, and she plays with Elliot, and you just see like a smile come to Morgan's face, because, Elliot obviously is feeling lonely with no friends at school, and now his sister's not playing with them, so the fact that she was like, hey, let's go do this, and they're both smiling, playing on the playground, kind of lets you know kids are resilient. He's going to get through this. But that's one of those hard parenting things where you just gotta see your kids suffer and have to go through life, and we're just there if they need us. But all in all, I thought it was a great episode. I love the way Morgan solves things. You almost kind of gotta just stop and focus on the little rampage that she goes on when she solves it, because her mind goes so fast, and she's like this, and I was like, okay, let me put all these clues together, because she does it so quickly. But I do have good news. I heard that High Potential has been picked up for season 2, so that's exciting. So until next week, I hope you enjoyed my review. If you have any comments, just make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.